So we're focusing this month on the power of prayer. Perfect. And in religious science, New Thought, which is what we are here, we have a very unique form of prayer. It's called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. We pray in the affirmative. And in our prayer, we take a class called Foundation for Science of Mind, which we offer in September, and I would highly recommend taking it. There's 5 steps. There's a technique to it, and there's 5 steps, which I'm not going over at all. But the words are not rote. If you were brought up in religion, you know, everything's memorized and it's rote, and there's nothing wrong with that. But ours come from the heart. So you'll hear people like Reverend Brenda or anyone that's up here, any of our ministers and practitioners, will speak from the heart, not anything memorized. So Ernest Holmes wrote in his Science of Mind book, "No class of people on earth believes more in prayer than we do. Our whole theory is based not only on the belief in spirit, but in the availability of it, the immediate response. We even go as far as to say, in everyday language, pray right, and God cannot help responding." And those are powerful words. The founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, and yet they beg a very important question. What does pray right even mean, right? Well, there's a little book that I'm basing everything on this month called The Prayer Chest, and it offers unique answers to that question. What it refers to as the 3 secrets of the prayer chest. Last week we did the first one. In fact, it offers this promise. Slip 100 prayers into the chest, so you have a box that's your prayer chest. Do not use the secrets of the prayer chest, which I've been divulging, and all 100 shall go unanswered. But slip 100 secrets of the prayers of the prayer into the prayer chest, and every last one shall be answered to the utmost. So it really depends on the consciousness of the one praying. It always will. It always will. So when we come from the heart, those prayers are powerful. And that was a pretty bold statement, but one that I like. I like it a lot because there's a lot of power in bold promises. And as I read this simple, sweet, spiritual novel, it's by Reverend August Gold, who's phenomenal, and Joel Fontino. So think about the 3 secrets it does put forth. We did the last one last week. I'll go over it. And they make a lot of sense. This book was based, which we are basing on the talks for March, and it fits so perfectly in with our teachings, and both of those ministers are religious science ministers, so of course it does. So today, we continue our journey through the novel of the prayer chest as we uncover the 2nd secret to praying right, with quotations. First, I'm going to do a brief refresher of last week, if you weren't here. Our protagonist is a man named Joseph Hutchinson, who is living a life of quiet desperation, a life he really doesn't want. He's running the family farm, which has been in his family for generations, which he really truly is a carpenter at heart, but he continues the tradition. His beloved, this is a real quick synopsis. His beloved wife Miriam died, and it leaves him feeling really lost, and he has 2 small children to bring up. And the last straw is when the bank forecloses on the farm. He missed a few payments. And he and the children must be out of that house in 1 month. He has no money and nowhere to go. He's pretty desperate. He has a breakdown, which is shown through the metaphor that we did last week of throwing out everything in the attic. And our attic, of course, is where? Right here. And what takes place right here? A lot of things. But thoughts take place in our attic of our mind. So last week we talked about he was so desperate, he was so angry with everything going on that he went up into that attic and he threw out everything through a window that was there, everything. Old stuff, that memorabilia that had been in the family for many years, and there was junk and dust, there was a lot of stuff. And he cleared the whole attic out. And this represents us clearing our beliefs out, right? And he inherited all that stuff from his family, and boy, we sure have inherited some beliefs from our family too. Could be good, could be not so good, but we've inherited, generational thinking, beliefs. So sometimes we must go through complete chaos and confusion to arrive at the clarity that we have been seeking. Once the attic was cleared out, he went back up there because now he was getting ready to leave, and he saw for the first time a false front wall. He never saw it before because there was so much stuff in the way. And behind it was a prayer chest. A very old notebook was inside of that, and it contained instructions written by his ancestor. And it revealed 3 secrets of answered prayers. It is after a breakdown that we usually have, and we are open to, a breakthrough. We have so much stuff clogging our minds up that sometimes the real beauty of life, the answer to prayers, cannot get through. We must be open and receptive. So last week we discussed and discovered the first secret to prayer. Does anyone remember it? I'm so glad that you all pay such attention. Okay, it's that prayer must be answered through you. Yeah, it has to come through you, right? You don't just recite words, you gotta feel it. So that's number 1. It has to move through you. If you don't feel it, then it truly won't be effective. Or it'll take a long, long, long time. So the second secret, remember, Joseph is the father's name, and his 2 young children are Daniel and Mary. Joseph reads out loud the words from the notebook. The second secret of the prayer chest. Prayer is answered when you listen. And you're not listening really out here. You're listening in here. This is where everything is. This is where God is. This is where the universal consciousness is, right here. In the ancient notebook that he found, it is written, when you talk, you are a dam overflowing, but when you listen, you are an open vessel ready to receive. Reluctantly, I disclose to you that this is not me speaking, it's him. Reluctantly, I disclose to you that I was such a man. Those words spilled over me like a dam. I banged my prayer into God's head in an effort to help God remember. You ever feel like you did that sometime? Maybe the old way of praying? I gotta keep reminding God because he's forgotten. Well, the book continues. And where, I asked Grandma Mary, might a farmer like me, and this was Joseph's father speaking, or writing, with chores to do from sunrise to sunset, find the time to listen. Return to your work. Do what you must. It's written in the book. But with a part of you inclined toward listening. And do all this stuff, but listen at the same time. Know when God speaks to us continuously. Know it. But we cannot hear it if we do not listen. I've had the greatest awakenings and information and instructions when I've been doing stuff. And I prayed on the thing, and it just flows right through me. But when I'm really paying attention and hear it, I know that's the answer to my prayer. And I do it. That's an important part. Take the action. So we cannot hear if we do not listen. Joseph turned the page, intending to read the third secret, but the text cautioned him otherwise. Do not read it, said the third secret, until you have spent a night listening. You will be surprised by how much one is able to hear in the silence. Quite true. And I love this idea from the Prayer Chest Notebook. When you talk, you are a dam overflowing. But when you listen, you are an open vessel ready to receive. Do not let the words spill over or be like a drum banging your prayer into God's head in an effort to help God remember. Well, there was a story of a professor who traveled a long way to visit a Zen master and to learn Zen teachings. Ah, very good, said the Zen master. Please come in. After they were seated, the Zen master began by speaking about the vital importance of ethical living in Zen. Yes, interrupted the professor. Ethics is a fascinating topic, isn't it? I've studied several branches of it. In fact, I've even written a book about it. And he gathered speed and as he's talking and launched into a lecture on the various theories of ethics. Ah, I see, said the Zen master gently when at last the professor stopped to draw a breath. In Zen, he continued, the correct motivation for saying or doing anything is very important. And so we try to say only what is truly helpful. Well, said the professor, there are several theories which hold that view. However, I must say that I find each one of them flawed. And he promptly delivered a long lecture on the different theories of motivation. Oh, I see, said the Zen master when the professor finally paused for a moment. Would you like some tea, he asked. Why, yes, thank you, said the professor. The Zen master smiled and poured until the professor's cup was full. And then the saucer got full, and he continued pouring. The tea ran over the table. The professor, a man rarely lost for words, was stunned into silence. But when the hot tea started to pour on his lap, he leaped, yelling, "Stop! Can't you see my cup is full? It can't possibly take any more." "Why, yes, I see that," replied the Zen master. "And can't you see that when you are so filled with ideas that you must speak, you can't possibly hear new ones?" Good for us to remember, especially when we think we have the answers to everything, because we don't. The second secret of the prayer chest said we must stop talking. I gotta practice that more. We must stop talking, even stop praying and start listening. Listen and only listen. You ever sit in the silence and just, your thoughts never stop. I mean, they're constant. But sometimes mixed in with those human thoughts, there's some divine messages coming through. Some answers to your prayer might be flowing through too. And if you're too busy talking, you aren't going to hear them. Mary Morrissey, in Building Your Field of Dreams, her book, she writes this: "Clearly, calmly, and without judgment, our inner voice is always ready to help us move toward our highest good. Anytime we choose to listen, as we increasingly listen to and follow our inner guidance, we find ourselves navigated to our dream. You will be told very specifically," she says, "listen, and you will be led. Remember, God can do for us what God can only do through us. Follow your voice of God, even if you would rather sit home and fret." Before going into more detail about this listening thing, I do want to address the idea of praying only once and then not praying again. That was an ongoing debate between Dr. Ernest Holmes, founder of Spirituality, and his practitioner, Ventura Papke. And they would disagree on this. She thought once and it should be done. And according to Ernest Holmes in his book, he says, if it takes 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, or 5 years, the treatment must be kept up until a healing is accomplished. Treat, which means pray, until you get results. Get results. And it sometimes does take decades. It's taken for me. And then I heard the voice, and it wasn't a feeling. It was a loud voice. But that's what I needed, that whack, to listen. And I did listen. But what if we experimented with the idea of treating, praying once, and then choosing to realize that as the prayer is answered through us, we must be open to listening and then hearing. You will get a message. What stops us from hearing, even if we are trying to listen? Fear, anger, victimhood, anger with ourselves sometimes. Joseph played the victim very, very well. And yes, a lot of horrible things took place, but a lot of horrible things take place in our lives, in our world too. That doesn't mean we stop praying. And yes, life seemed unfair as he thought. Yet playing the victim keeps him and it keeps us stuck. You can't go anywhere if you're always the victim. I remember always until I was about 45. I'm really into this teaching. Got over the being a victim. a victim of those childhood stuff that we play over and over again in our lives. I did anyway. And boy, when I released that, really released that, took a lot of work. Freedom. What freedom I felt from that. There's a really easy way to spot victim consciousness. Whenever we ask or you hear, now when we get into this teaching, we're very alert to what people say. When you hear these questions, why did this happen to me? Well, you're never going to get an answer to that. The ego will give you 5 million reasons why it happened. Oh, that'll go on forever. But you'll never get a true answer. Why aren't my prayers being answered? How could this happen to me? Even, why are your prayers being answered and mine aren't? Just not fair. That's victim consciousness. That's when we think that things are always happening to us when they're not. When they're not. We those old beliefs, clean that attic out. So when we have stopped talking, we are open to listening and can hear. We can hear. How does the voice of God come to us then? Sometimes it's a thunderbolt. Sometimes we need a thunderbolt. And sometimes, most of the time, it's a still, small voice. Sometimes it could be through another person, something you read, something you see even on a billboard, or watching a movie. Ernest Holmes discussed Jesus' communion with God, saying his power was founded on his ability to listen, and that we should all listen. And so Ernest Holmes wrote this: we must learn to listen. Call it conscious intuition or what we will. It is there. No one need go unguided through life. We pray for divine guidance. It's there. It's always there. But we have to tune within and align with it. Back to Holmes. For all are divine at the center, and all are images of the Most High. Begin practicing the secrets. That's one way that's the only way to start this going. First, know that the prayer must come through you. It must come through you. It's not out there. God is not out there, as many of us have been taught. God is here. God is in every one of us. Even when it looks like it isn't in a lot of people. And we're sure being tested today, I'll tell you that. But we have to stick to what our spiritual teachings teach us if we want them to work. And they will work. So, second, let it go and be consciously open to listening. Set that intention. Set any intention daily, like the one you're doing with the monks. What is it again? Peace.
Today will be my peaceful day.
Today will be my peaceful day.
Today is going to be.
Well, I'm going to say it is. I'm just going to put it in the present. That came from the monks who just walked through to Washington, and Laura was there with Reverend Sue Locke. And that was what they said. So slip 100 prayers into a chest, if you want, or into your mind, utilizing the secrets of the prayer chest. And every last one shall be answered to the utmost. I've had nearly everything I've prayed for in my life answered. Now I got a whole slew of other stuff. Now we're praying for world peace on a big time, big scale. Now we pull out, we can't say guns, but we're pulling out the heavy prayers. And we're praying for world peace. That's what we are doing. So I would like to conclude with a writing from Ernest Holmes on his chapter on prayer from his book, Science of Mind. He wrote this: prayer is not an act of overcoming God's reluctance, but should be an active acceptance of his highest willingness. Through prayer, we recognize a spiritual law that has always existed and put ourselves in alignment with it. The law of electricity might have been used by Moses had he understood this law. Emerson said, is not prayer a study of truth, a sally of the soul into the unfound infinite? We can be certain that there is an intelligence in the universe to which we may come at all times. It's within us. We can come whenever we feel off-centered. Start with a breath and a line. And that will guide us. It will guide us and inspire us. A love that overshadows God is real to the one who believes in the Supreme Spirit. Real to the soul. It's real to my soul. That senses its unity with the whole. So let us allow our prayers to be answered through us. Feel the prayer. Feel your heart. Alive. Your heart is alive with limitless possibilities. It always shall be. It always will be. Listen. Pay attention. Listen. And have the wisdom. Because that divine wisdom is always being whispered to us, through us, as us. But we must be silent enough. That's why meditation is so important. That's really important. For us to hear the wisdom. The gifts that come when we are aligned with the nature of God, which is our nature. Answered prayer. That is the answered prayer we are seeking. To align ourselves with the infinite allness of the unity of pure consciousness, because that's what we are. That's all there is, pure consciousness. And so I say to all of that, and so it is.
And so it is.